Hello and welcome to Depth Perception. We discuss movies and dive into how films direct the way we experience them. We create a perception of sound, a perception of sight, with a dimension of mind. We move into a land of both shadow and substance, of themes and ideas. Today, I am again joined by my cohorts, Kmax.
How you doing, Voz?
And James.
What's up, what's up?
All right, so episode 2 here is brought to you by the movie Godzilla Minus. This is, of course, from last year, 2023, verbatim, right from Wikipedia. Japanese epic kaiju film, written, directed, and with visual effects by Takashi Yamazaki. Produced by Toho Studios and Robot Communications, it is the 37th film in the Godzilla franchise. Set in post-war Japan, it follows a former kamikaze pilot suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder after encountering a giant monster known as Godzilla. So I want to start off, I am not going to go through the story scene by scene. If you'd like to do that, you can go to Wikipedia and look through, but we're banking on whoever's listening to have already seen the movie, because we will dive into specific scenes and symbolism and breakdowns and all that. So, of course, you will need to have seen the movie. All right. So, I asked you guys to watch this movie. Neither one of you had seen it before, so I wanted to know what your initial expectations were. And I'll start off with James.
So, my son is a big Godzilla fan. He's watched a bunch of the movies. Even one of the first backpacks he got, and when he was in like 4th grade, that he picked out was a Godzilla backpack, fins on it and everything. He was taken by his uncle to go see the movie a couple weeks ago. It must have been months ago. He saw it in movie theaters in the subtitled version, so it was in Japanese. And I wasn't going to think he was going to like the movie, and then he said that it was the best Godzilla movie. And my son's 14, so I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'd, take it with a grain of salt. And then just hearing the setting post World War II, it's in Japan. It's from people who have already been devastated by war, and then the monster rises from there. Already gave a setting that seems way more interesting, more detail, more depth, more character to just the setting in of itself. Holds weight to it. So I was already excited to kind of see the movie after hearing just that. My son's raving review, my 14-year-old's raving review of the movie, and then the setting of it, just that alone. But I didn't get a chance to see it till this week. This is the first time I watched it was this week.
Nice. All right, K-Max, what about you?
I watched it today in between classes and during lunch and during prep, and pretty much on the taxpayer's dollar, which is kind of cool. It made it a little bit more sweet. One thing I like about it is anybody that knows me knows I teach U.S. history and global history, and one of my favorite topics to learn about and to research is World War II, and I like to look at the periphery. I like to look at the edges of World War II, and one of the things that I've been kind of wrestling with is the idea of the morality of the atomic bomb. Right? I told you last week that Oppenheimer is one of my favorites, one of my most influential. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why it's one of my influential is because the push and pull of why we did, why we shouldn't have, why we did, why we should have, what would happen if we didn't. And I love that a Godzilla movie just galvanized that a little bit more for me. We said we're not going through the stages of the movie, but I like how one of the driving forces in the movie was, I guess, the protagonist's guilt that he had. And then going back to his hometown and just being called out for, if you did your job, this wouldn't have happened. And you don't get that out of a lot of monster movies, and or maybe you do. I don't watch a ton of them, but man, I thought that was so cool how that kind of that post traumatic that trauma kind of drives the story more than the monster does. But again, I guess if the theme of tonight's conversation is like symbolism and things like that, I was kind of blown away by how much they were able to get me to connect. I told you last week, there's things that I don't usually see that you guys all see. But with this movie, I almost felt like I was seeing them, but I'm like, maybe I'm just seeing them because I'm looking for them. Maybe I'm just sensing them that they're there. Maybe I'm seeing things that aren't there, and I'm going to bring them up, and they're going to say, no, that's not what that was doing, or that wasn't intended that. But anyway, just off the cuff, if I'm saying the movie, I really enjoyed it. There was some real good, yummy payoff at the end for me.
Now, would you say that before you watched it, did you know anything about it? Did you know that it brought back like the war, and atomic?
No, I. In fact, there's so much about Godzilla and any of the classic monster movies like King Kong or any of those that I have just such a void of. I watch them, but I always watch them pretty ignorantly. You'll find that as a recurring theme with me. I watch to be entertained. I know what I like. I like what I think is good quality film. But man, I couldn't even tell you what it is. And these conversations kind of actually help me kind of hone that in a little bit. You know.
Okay.
I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you.
Okay. And so we kind of talked about Kmax's reactions already, but so James, like, describe like kind of your reactions throughout the movie and
Okay.
You know.
So I've never really watched any of the Godzilla movies, the earlier ones. They were playing at your grandma's house back in the day, and I just remember, it's just the monsters being monsters, doing monster stuff, but no story. I never picked up on any of the story or plot while it was playing in the background when we were younger. I did the last movie I saw in theaters. The second to last movie I saw in theaters was Godzilla X Kong, which is a totally different type of movie, which to me seemed like it was just a reason to put big monsters on, CG monsters on a screen and make them do fun stuff like smash things and get into big fights, which, my younger kids seemed to like it, but I wasn't super entertained by it.
Yeah.
So coming into this story, I wasn't really jazzed up but I heard good reviews, and my son, who's a fan, that was the only reason I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Then I heard more and more people raving about it. It's really good. Has this, and that was the one thing my son was like, oh, you actually care probably more about the people. It's not about the monster destroying stuff. You're not there just to see, oh, hey, let's see Godzilla blow something up or stomp on this building. It's like, no, we actually care about the people involved, and you want to see where that story goes. You want to follow them. And I'm like, okay, if my 14-year-old, who just loves seeing monsters smash stuff, was like, I actually cared about the people more than the monster. I'm like, oh, okay, then there must be some depth to the story, some depth to the characters that you want to follow them. And Godzilla must be a backdrop, not necessarily a character that's like a big monster that's a good guy, he's saving the world or he's stopping other evil monsters who are huge. He's a different type of character in the story. So
yeah, I always wondered about that. If I could just ask that question to you guys, I get Godzilla, right? And is Godzilla just like this reoccurring, like kind of a reoccurring metaphor in these films? He seems to take on different characteristics,
right?
Film by film.
I think, it's been ages since I've watched like the first movies, but like it started off as a symbol for, the atomic bomb and war decimating Japan, and it kind of took on different forms after that. I feel like, it was almost like this equalizing force of nature when things got out of hand. Hence the fighting different monsters with different abilities and...
Yeah, he's almost like a good guy.
Right.
I've always seen that, I think. That almost like a good guy. And then this one was like, just pure terror from the start.
Yeah.
You know, there's characters with these psychic wounds already, and he just galvanized those things. It's like, even worse. You know, you got trauma? I'll show you trauma. You got real trauma now.
Yeah.
So I'll go through my initial my expectations, or I guess expectations going into the movie it was another one done by not the U.S. I watched Shin Godzilla when it came out. I think it was 2016 maybe. But that's a whole different conversation, you know. But it's also symbolism riddled throughout the entire thing, and I enjoyed watching that for sure. And it's so different than the American versions. You know, you had Godzilla with Matthew Broderick, and then you have this new series that James was mentioning. Where are they at? Like 4 or 5 films into it now, or something like that.
Something like that. Because there's Skull Island, I think, where he's introduced, and then it's kind of the new resurgence of Kong, and then Godzilla's added to it now.
Because Godzilla by himself has had 3 movies, right? He fought.
Well, the last one was Godzilla X Kong, and then one before that was Godzilla versus Kong.
So
and then there was separate ones where they were introduced.
I think they might be on 4 movies right now, just the American version of Godzilla, the current one. So my thought was, if we continue without the American version and have Japan create another Godzilla movie, I thought maybe this one will follow kind of the same path that Shin Godzilla did. Maybe we'll get some more symbolism, some more commentary, and I heard someone say, I'm not sure if I read this on a publication or if it was a tweet or something, but I thought I heard a filmmaker say, why can't we just write a good Godzilla movie? So it was kind of like a challenge for the filmmaker. As far as I understood at the time, like I said, I don't know if it was just a tweet I read or just someone hearsay. But watching it, because I don't go to the theater often anymore, so it's got to have some hype behind it for me to get to the theater and watch it. Just because the turnaround time to home media is just so fast. So it's really got to grab my attention for me to want to experience it in the theater. And Minus One was one of them. So by myself, in the theater, there might have been 2 or 3 other people in the entire theater. But glued to the screen the entire time. And the symbols that I was talking about, they're all there for you to see. The people, you're following them right from the start.
Did you watch the version it's in Japanese with subtitles?
Yes.
Okay. Because the one I ended up watching was dubbed in English.
I picked that on purpose because I couldn't. I was kind of I had to listen to it a little bit because I was doing some other things.
Gotcha.
So I picked that, but I didn't. I find that so distracting.
Okay.
I find that a little distracting, but I needed to consume it that way.
Yeah, I think it'd be worth checking it out with the original dub because you get the actor's performance.
I'd be willing to watch it again in Japanese with the subtitles because I know that I think they did a good job with the dubbing. As far as the voice actors went, I thought it was pretty well done. But they also have a black and white version too, that apparently was
minus
was
one
very
minus
well.
color, and
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's released yet or where it's going to be released, but I'd love to check that out as well. It looks like they really play with the contrast. So
Yeah, there's some it was Stockman's review. He did a minus color review, and he seemed to think it was more scary. The scary moments in there were a little more terrifying with the contrast bleeding in and out, kind of covering up some of the CGI with the low budget CGI, even though it held up so well.
Right.
With only what was it, $15 million for the whole budget?
Yeah.
That's wild.
So yeah, that was my reaction throughout. And once it ended, I'm just I sat in the chair for a while, just thinking about everything that played out in front of me, and trying to connect some pieces too, because I'm figuring out the theme of the movie as we're going along, the symbols that are supporting it, and once I saw that it was so cohesive, I was playing part of the movie back in my head, trying to figure, like I said, connect the dots. Like, okay, how did this connect to that? Oh, okay, that's how, So yeah, probably my top movie from 2023. Now, how about favorite scenes? Kmax, did you have any favorite scenes that stuck out from this movie?
I think early on, getting back to, I think it's Tokyo. He gets back to his hometown, and I don't know any of the characters' names. There's a lady there that kind of condemns him for not doing his job.
The sister, right? Was that the sister?
I'm not sure of the relation.
And then, so like, he's confronted he's going home, I'm going to guess, for comfort, right? I mean, for some level of comfort, he's been trying to get home.
Nowhere else to go, right?
Yeah, and I think he also didn't ever think he was going to see home again when he committed to his mission that he was going on, obviously, as a kamikaze pilot. And all he gets faced with is just the fact that if you did your job, we wouldn't be facing this right now.
Right.
And, he's got that after already being lambasted by the mechanic that pretty much says, if you did your job, they wouldn't all be lying dead here. But it made it more human, though. So you had the results of the monster, right, in the first initial scene. Then he goes to Tokyo, and he gets more of the same. It's just galvanized, but in a very human way. If you did your job. And I guess that resonated with me because... sometimes we feel that way. It's like you get that guilt at home or in your community. It's like we want the community to be better. Well, what have you done? Did you come back and did you do your part here? So I guess I could relate a little bit to it, saying, I don't teach here. I teach down in Wilson. I don't teach here. I didn't change things here like I hoped to when I was being idealistic and young. And so I guess that scene resonated. Weird that it had nothing to do with the monster. It had more to do with history and looking at that hometown just pretty much flattened and decimated by people, by war, carnage. So I guess that was my scene that stuck out to me. And of course, when I always look to see how much a monster can bounce back from. I kind of weigh how valid a monster movie is by saying, all right, he wouldn't have lived through that, or you can't, you're not gonna swallow a mine and have it blow up and then just. But then I guess I didn't know the regenerative powers of Godzilla. That, and I guess even in the very last scene, no spoilers here, I guess, but maybe
spoilers everywhere.
Yeah. They were told, though. They were told.
Warned. They were well
But
warned.
this idea that the regeneration, I'm thinking, well, okay, well then you got an insurmountable foe, and that usually takes away from my interest when I see that. But it never did in this. It never did. It was always, you always felt that there was a frailty to this Godzilla. Like, there was a plan. There's people that thought if we can just get them into this, if we could just execute this right and we do our part, we can beat them. And very often it's just, when I think of monster movies, I'm like, survive as best you can. It's insurmountable. You have no chance. Anyway, that one scene where he goes back to, I think, Tokyo.
Yeah, have any other, they don't have to be like the most important scenes, but like any other favorite scenes or like memorable things throughout watching it?
I think mine are going to be probably the times that I was able to focus, like right on there. So I happen to look at one where I think they were using like almost like a ballast system to kind of get him to rise to the surface fast, to kind of hope that he would have like a pressure. A pressure issue. I was fascinated by that because I'm thinking, how are you even conveying this idea of buoyancy and, ascending from pressure depths and how that how are you able to show that? Because I heard in the English voiceovers, I could hear that was the plan, and I'm thinking, how are you showing this on the screen as I'm dealing with 5 or 6 kids in my class eating lunch? And I look over and I'm like, yeah, you're showing it pretty well. So it's like the pressure itself, and then also like these little, if I was watching it correctly, like boats actually, like the hero of that particular scene, I wish I knew these characters' names or even what they were doing, but kind of like almost pulling him to the surface by force. I'm thinking, you don't see monsters like that get manhandled. So I thought that was interesting.
So I have all sorts of comments ready to go to address what you're saying. So I'll move on to James for any of his memorable favorite scenes.
Okay, so one memorable scene, I guess, is when the crew goes to his house for dinner, and they all kind of congratulate him a little bit on this family that kind of fell into his lap. And they're like, "Oh, it's your wife." "That's not my wife." "That's your kid." "That's not my kid." They're like, "Wow, well, you have it pretty good here. She's making dinner for us, and she's a good-looking woman and a family that you have here. Like, it's something to be proud of, something to be thankful for." And he's like, "That's not my family." Like, he gets real upset about it. And there's a noticeable like push that he's trying not to enjoy the stuff he has or see what he has to be thankful for. He's actively pushing that away. Whatever the hurt, pain that he's been going through, when he comes home after that woman tells him, you should have died, then he gets a letter from his family who said, just come back to us. He comes back and they're all dead, from his mom and dad. So there's a definite like a big sign right there for his character, where he's at in life, where he is pushing against all four of these people who he's kind of become this ragtag team, together. They all notice it, but he seems to be pushing it away. But one of my favorite scenes has got to be when they're all in the boat and they have the mines and they kind of realize the mission that they're on, that the country is willing to, hang them out as lure, to be sheep for the slaughter, I guess. And it's a crew that you guys all like, that we all kind of come to like now. Now they're like funny, witty, crew is, even as far as Japanese culture goes, they're still kind of like an interesting crew that you can follow along with. Oh yeah, we need to have these beat up wooden boats because it's the magnetic mines we got to avoid. And then to have Godzilla come out and then chase them in this wooden boat that's falling apart, the engine won't start. Oh, it's coming. Give me a second. For them have to work together to drop mines for it to blow up and then having to shoot it, just for them to work together as this team to try to slow down this monster that's chasing right behind them. It's such a cool looking scene. And you actually have just enough like character development with all those characters that you're invested. You want them to succeed, and the threat feels real. So that was one of my favorite scenes, probably, is that first little chase on the boat.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. That was one of my favorite scenes. Just being so close to Godzilla, too, like almost from their point of view, like just these giant eyeballs, like looking at you, like, it's chasing me.
That's the only thing I've ever seen in the movie before you brought it up, was that particular image.
Yeah.
I saw that they're on the boat and he's like, you can actually see him. I'm like, I've never seen that perspective before.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's always this big looming thing that's over top of you that couldn't pay any attention to you because it's crushing buildings around you.
Yep.
And to have it being like, no, you're what I'm chasing after, and just its eyes above the water. You're like,
and just man. Like it can swim faster than that. It could just reach out with its arms and grab you, but it's like playing with you, like. Did you have any other scenes that stuck out to you?
I mean, other than the final scene was pretty cool. But like, maybe when the girl gets blown away, when they're trying to run through the city, they named the city Ginzo. Is that the name?
Ginza, I think.
Ginza?
Yeah.
So she gets a job. She leaves to go to work, and she couldn't be more of a, like, the plucky, positive spirit throughout this whole movie. She almost never gets down. And she's like, oh, well, he doesn't want us. He doesn't want me or this kid. So I'm going to stay out of his way if he wants to find a wife, and I'm going to do my part and go get a job. So she goes off to the city, gets attacked. Monster, Godzilla comes in, smashes everything, and then they find each other, and she pushes him out of the way after he blasts the city, and then all the debris and everything goes flying by and takes her with it. That was a pretty wild scene. That whole thing leading up to that, and then him surviving just to have her shot away. Like, oh man, this guy can't catch a break.
So, on top of the initial chase scene. One of the scenes that stuck out to me was, it kind of had to do with when I'm watching it, like what's our theme here, and they kind of play it twice in pretty close proximity to each other. So one is they're gathered in the office or whatever, and it's all ex-Navy, and they're trying to figure out how to kill it, and they're like, okay, we can't force you to be here, but who's with us,
Yeah.
And, a couple of people leave, and the one no-name guy asks, does this mean certain death? And they said, they're kind of wishy-washy about it, and he says, then it definitely beats wartime. And that, like, rallies them up. So to think that facing this monster is going to be a better time than going to war under the Japanese regime, where it's just sacrifice yourself while we plan something,
Yeah.
And then the other scene that I said kind of played in close proximity was, and I don't have the verbatim words here, but they're tracking Godzilla's movements in the sea, and they're seeing that it's going to reach Tokyo. And so they ask again, life and death, and Doc explains, it's, like I said, I don't have the words verbatim, but basically one of the parts of this mission is that no one else has to give their life for this battle.
Yeah.
So those two scenes, pretty close to each other in the movie, kind of hammered it home for me, like, okay, that's where we're going with it. And I kind of started to see how the rest of the movie was going to go after that. All right, so based on, you've seen the movie now, do you think that you could formulate what you think the theme of the movie was?
It's a good question.
It's a great question.
I mean, I'm sure that you could say plenty of themes, but I feel like there's a pretty big one, and a lot of the smaller themes support the big theme.
So what I had was how Godzilla kind of represents Koichi Shikishima. That's the main character's name. The guilt, pain, and suffering and wounds of war. How it dually is the pain and suffering that a country has to sustain after devastating loss by the war that it had to endure. So I kind of feel like his war, his battle that he's carrying on is even with Godzilla and with everything that's going on with him, matches that of the country in its totality. So he's kind of like a microcosm of another problem that matches it. And how he handles it is how the nation is going to have to handle it. And doing so solves both problems, so to speak.
So, I mean, you hit on a supporting symbol that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But Kmax, do you feel like you could nail down like a singular theme?
Well, if I thought of a singular theme, I think of the title, Godzilla Minus One, and I was so curious about what the heck does that mean. Honestly, I still kind of wonder, but my guess is like there was a movie in the 80s called Less Than Zero. And I always thought that was always a curious title for me. And it was like, you're at rock bottom. You can't go any lower. Oh yeah, you can. There it is.
You got it though.
Yeah. So Japan, you're beat, a very proud culture. You talk about the samurai where you're beat, you are beat. You either take your life, you lose your head, all that, you are beat. And so you have this proud country. They are at zero. And here comes this monster. And now all of a sudden, I don't know if minus one even does it justice. Because you're certainly minus. You're less than zero. So what I thought about was that title of that movie. James Spader, great movie by the way. I think, because it was been since the 80s since I watched it. But Less Than Zero. And I think the whole theme of that movie was, yeah, it can get worse. And that's kind of what I thought. And maybe I guess I would call that like the survivor's guilt. is a very real thing that can consume you like the monster can. Almost like a monster. That sort of PTSD and survivor's guilt can consume you like Godzilla can consume you. That I was looking for that, though, I think, for that kind of symbolism. And that's what I pulled from it. And for me, if I had to say that's a theme, is or less, whatever that number is, it's -1 at least.
What I pulled from everything, mind you, this was I saw the movie months ago, so I've had a lot more time to think about this and think back on it, and especially when I watch it for the second and third time here this week, I'm able to kind of piece things together a little bit better. My central theme that I pulled away from it would be that life defeats war, not death.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, all sorts of ways that you can support that statement, I would think. I mean, the idea that a kamikaze pilot, like, even to us sounds so silly. Like, how are you going to win a war by sacrificing your people for whatever they're aiming at? And throughout the entire movie, there's all sorts of nods to living, and we're here for a reason, and we have to rebuild, and so it's all sorts of nods to life is what is going to get us past this terrible moment in our country's history. I don't want to step over our section for symbolism, because pretty much every symbol that I'm going to bring up is going to support this idea. But you have at the end when Koichi flies into the mouth, explodes Godzilla's head, it decapitates him, and there's no cheering for that. There's no cheering for the death of Godzilla. They're all in silence because they think Koichi's dead. So to them, to every character in the movie that we're watching at that point, Koichi living is more important than Godzilla dying. I don't know if you remember, but once they see the parachute in the air, then everyone celebrates. It's a sigh of relief. Was it Tachibana, the mechanic, gets emotional, like, all right, like he got past it, he did it. So yeah, that was my thought. And not just war, like active war, but like the burden of war is what I'm going to get at. I'm going to use that phrase quite a bit going forward. Like I said, there's smaller themes in there, like, the survivor's guilt, and then seeing the Koichi's, they reference this in the movie a lot, but his war, my war isn't over yet. His whole battle throughout the movie being a metaphor for the country's battle through the same issues, through post-war and all that. So yeah, that's where I was with that. Do you guys kind of see, does that like make a little bit more sense, like a little bit more cohesion from the movie, kind of?
Yeah, they said
lens?
that line too. They said to him, are you afraid, or are you not wanting to live? Like, and he had dreams that he was already dead. Like, those seemed like to stick out, almost like they were, intentional. You're reading them, you're like, what do they mean? But why are they asking if he thinks he's already dead? Why is he refusing to live? I think that's what they said to him when he did not want to accept this woman as a wife and this child as his, that he's taking care of, that he's living with. And he was refusing to live. Like, and they said that to him. So I remember, like, that makes sense. That totally makes sense.
It hangs together the way you say it. I would need to watch it again to kind of experience it and agree. But it hangs together perfectly the way you say it when I think about it. But I definitely have to watch it again, probably at least 2 more times if I'm going to pick up on it. I do
the same thing. Like, the first time watching it, it's almost for pure entertainment. The only reason I looked at it at all is because I knew we were going to review it. So I'm like, all right, I got to try to take notes and break it down a little bit. But
But like, each character seems to learn this lesson during the movie, though. So the mechanic, in the beginning, he's very much, like you said, shame on you for not sacrificing yourself.
Puts all the other mechanics' death on him too.
Yeah.
Everyone
Oh,
on this
yeah.
island is dead because of you.
Yeah. As if Godzilla wasn't gonna go there. When he comes back into the story, it's still, oh, you're ready to sacrifice you now, are you? Or you're ready to sacrifice yourself now, are you? Okay, I'll help you since you're ready to become the kamikaze pilot and save whoever. It wasn't until they kind of go back in time to show the audience that the conversation that he had with Koichi, where he saw that Koichi kept the photos of all the people that died on the island, and so that now that he knows how much burden it's been on Koichi, and then he sees the glimmer of life or future with his, I guess, adopted daughter. Was it Akiko? I think it's Akiko. So once Tachibana sees that glimmer of future, then he realizes how much more important life is rather than death in this context. So he learns that, and then our main character Koichi learns it. I mean, he kind of knew it from the start that life, he'd rather live than die, of course. But even when he made the decision to sacrifice himself to blow up Godzilla, there was still a way that he could eject himself and choose life over death and choose future over non-future. So I guess I'll move right into symbolism, because that's I'm waiting to dive into this one. So James, you brought up, I thought that was pretty good, with Koichi kind of being a metaphor for Japan going through the exact same thing, but just humanizing it and kind of making it a little bit smaller so that we could relate to it. Were there any other metaphors or symbols that you picked up on throughout the movie?
Oh, let me see. No. Wait a second.
Can I go now? It's fine if you don't, because I'll take over.
Dude, take over. I'll jump in if I got anything.
Well, Chris, did you...
Well, I mean, I just thought so I guess not traditional symbolism, but like symbolism in setting, I thought. I thought that a lot of monster movies have big cities, big urban centers. And the fact that this takes place not so much in the big giant major metropolises that I'm used to seeing Godzilla terrorize and rampage. This took place on little indiscreet small sections. It seemed like even the little bay where the final scene kind of occurs, it's not like huge skyscrapers surrounding the bay. It's kind of a little bit more subtle. And to me, that symbolism is kind of like the story being told here isn't the traditional Godzilla story. It's more of a humanistic, it's a little bit more human side, a little, it's more human focused. It almost is almost in some ways a tearjerker, in some ways, if you can say, a Godzilla movie. And I don't get that kind of vibe if I'm looking at these huge major cities. I'm looking at little villages, the original little island that all the mechanics were killed on,
Right.
And then even seeing the major city in ruin after being firebombed, Tokyo being just a mess. You didn't have your the things I'm used to. So
even your character in the setting, a kamikaze pilot post World War II. I've never heard of that being a character in any movie.
No, seriously.
How often is there? It's a Green Beret who's an assassin mercenary, or it's a person. It's a cop who, a renegade cop. How many times has that character been used? How often has it been a kamikaze pilot who hasn't killed himself after losing the war,
or
be your main character?
Honestly, any shamed veteran.
Yeah.
It's generally the hero that carries the day, that saves the day. And this is someone he's wearing the scarlet letter for sure.
Yeah.
And it's pointed out right at the beginning, and it's galvanized when he goes home.
Godzilla is the symbol for the movie. To me, he is the burden of war. He only showed up in the beginning when our pilot made the decision to save himself and not perform. So right there, the beginnings of Godzilla, even relative to his size at that point. You have the survivor's guilt from that. So this burden of war starts to include not just our pilot, but a culture, cities, society, the people, the economy. So it's not just a monster, it's the idea of this post-war trauma and everything that I just said still destroying this country. So throughout the movie, you kind of see more signs of it, I feel. Even his demeanor, like what's Godzilla's motive? Well, he's just destroying everything, much like war. It's just destruction, death. That was Godzilla in a nutshell, this movie. And to me, that's what war is just destruction and death.
And that's unique, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but most Godzilla movies, he has a higher purpose. There's some kind of a purpose behind him.
I think the only one that I can think of, that at least that I've heard, that resembles this one is the very, very first Godzilla movie. After that, it was always some other monster that it's helping or that it's trying to defeat, or it's becomes like the protector of the country or something like that.
Right.
But I think the first Godzilla movie, he was very much a product of atomic warfare.
This is the only time that I wanted him dead. This is the only time that I didn't pull for him at all. This is the only time that I felt, I don't know that I was feeling what Voz is saying, but I felt like I didn't like him because he stood for something that was just awful.
And that is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This burden of war.
Was the Matthew Broderick one like that? I did see it, and I saw it in theaters. I don't remember any of it, but I remember it laying eggs in Madison Square Garden.
We'll stop you there. But
that one wasn't solely malevolent. I mean,
no, he was an animal, or she.
She was right.
But going back to -1. So when you think about all the ways that they tried to fight Godzilla with the warship and explosions and gunfire, none of that can kill Godzilla. None of that damage Godzilla. And big surprise, because that's what he represents. He
only got bigger.
He only got
bigger after that.
He got hit by an atomic bomb and grew in size from it. I got like 3 or 4 pages of notes from watching it today that I'm trying to sift through as well.
I love that.
I'm glad somebody has a lot of notes. I'm just here for the color commentary.
Well, I always think it's fun that Corey is able to pick that stuff out. Like Tombstone, for crying out loud, last week. The idea that
all the good was gone.
The town, there was no
left.
good there, and I'm thinking, well, there's a reason why none of these weapons of warfare could affect Godzilla, because he symbolizes war. And I wonder if the writer is mindful of that as they begin their story.
I'm hoping.
Yeah,
because if I can piece it together, I'm hoping that there is that intention there. But
right, if you're putting the pieces together and they start to not fit, then it probably wasn't. But when they all start to fall into place as the story keeps going, like, hey, he has to have had that in mind when he was putting it together.
So one of the things that kind of goes hand in hand with Godzilla as the symbol is the sea as a symbol. So the sea to me was like the psyche of Koichi. To start things off in the movie, when he's recovering from post-war, part of what he's doing is going back into the sea, right? And quite literally cleaning up the remnants of the war by getting rid of the bombs.
Yeah.
So to me, that's kind of that mental rehab, cleansing your mind of these remnants of war.
Oh, that makes sense.
And as he continues to clean more and more, the more he gets, you can see him starting to get a little bit more normal, a little bit less guilt. And it only kind of comes back up when things happen that his buddies ask him why he's not married to the girl. It's kind of like, now that brings it back up, and now Godzilla's attacking, a city. Whenever there's like this blockage of Koichi moving forward, there's Godzilla. So with the sea, he was doing good, getting rid of these mines. Then they unearthed Godzilla next, and they're doing what they can, but he just cannot fathom that there's no way that you can fight off Godzilla in this situation, much in the way he's not prepared to move forward with. It's bad that I can't remember their names or probably pronounce them either, but the woman and her adopted daughter. Noriko.
Akiko.
That's right, Noriko and Akiko. So he can't move forward with them, much in the same way he can't get past Godzilla in the sea. And then when you fast forward to the end, it comes up again. How do we defeat Godzilla? Well, we're going to bury it deep in the sea. And if you relate that to the psyche, you're saying, let's bury those feelings deep. Let's forget about them. Let's hope that we can suppress it. And in the words of Doc, it said, kill it with the power of the sea. So that was my thought, was using your own mental ability to get past it. Let's see if we can do it. So of course that doesn't work. So what do you do next? You go to therapy sessions, right? You bring up the problem. Let's talk about it. So in the, quite literally, they brought up the problem from the sea, and hopefully that would obliterate the monster, the burden of war. And so when that doesn't happen, you got to just face it head on. Just like, he's flying into the mouth of this monster.
Just like a kamikaze pilot would.
So to me, Godzilla and the sea went hand in hand when it came to burden of war. How do you solve it? How do you beat it? And I also picked up on the use of... Okay, so you remember the first battle that they had with Godzilla, the first chase scene. They shoot the bomb in Godzilla's mouth, right? And he gets an injury. Koichi gets an injury to his head, so he wears the headband for most of the rest of the movie. And the other one that gets hurt is the kid. And he wears a sling for the rest of the movie. Right. So to me, that was a reminder, this battle is taking place, right here. I'm, tapping my head. And the other one affected by that is the kid, which, I guess you could say that he's representative of the future that they're fighting for. So as the movie goes on, those are the two with the bandages. When Koichi is ready to finally say, okay, I'm ready to get Tachibana here to give me a kamikaze plane so I can blow myself up and kill Godzilla, that's when his bandage comes off. And it's, okay, he's ready to heal. All the while, the kid still has the sling for, I think, the remainder of the movie. Kind of like a reminder, like, hey, you're still fighting for the future here, even with all of that. And then at the end, with Noriko, when she's in the hospital, she's all bandaged up. Kind of letting the audience know, like, now she's on she has her own war or something going on there as well now. And you kind of see, like, I'll talk about this in a bit, but like the
black spot on the
black spot, whatever. Yeah. So I'll circle back to that in a bit, but
I'm curious about that.
And I will, that one, I just came up with this revelation today about that. So, but yeah, so that, in a nutshell, that's my big uses of symbolism in this movie to tell the theme. So everything that they're going through, I felt supported the theme, and they've said a few times we need to beat this thing with by living and fighting for the future, fighting for the next generation. not by sacrificing ourselves, not by just doing what the government says, and you know. So even at the end, the people fighting are all ex-Navy, but they're civilians. The people that were involved with the war, that they have to fight this war with Koichi, with Godzilla, to get past the burden of war. But they're fighting as civilians. They're fighting as private people, just living their lives, that need to come together to get past the burden of war. So, any thoughts coming out as I say at the end?
Yeah,
of this?
when you
As I ramble on here.
No, I think it's good. I was really thinking to myself as you were talking the difference between depth and shallow. Depth, you; shallow, me. Here's why. When you talked about the symbolism of when he had the bandages on his head, I immediately thought, all right, now he's ready. He's got his kamikaze headband back on. And even the blood, the way this is awful. I'm a bad person. But like I thought to myself, you know, it's almost like a symbol for like, okay, he's going to go back to that mindset and he's going to see the job through now. In my head, that's what I was waiting for. Like, and I'm thinking that's not valid. That's not a symbol for him going back to his military mindset. He's going to go finish the mission, and that's going to be his redemption, right? Now that I say it's not as silly as I think.
Well, because you don't know he's not going to kill himself.
Right, because I fully expected him to.
He still crashes, and only afterwards you see the parachute.
I fully expected him to. But then when he took it off, like Corey said, it was time to get to work, I'm like, I was almost like let down. Because I'm like, what kind of kamikaze are you anyway? You put your helmet on, you see the job through.
Well, that was part of the character, was that he was ready to make that sacrifice.
Yeah.
And he had to be shown the way that, like, no, it's great that you're ready to do that, but we're going to do this a different way. We need you to live in order to get past this. Mm-hmm. So we need you to come home to Akiko and his sister.
Noriko? Yeah, whatever the sister's name was.
Because he didn't know Noriko was alive at that point.
Right.
But, like, we need you back home.
And I kind of feel like only at the end does all that stuff make more sense. Because you're still thinking he might die. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the story would have been better if he died. No, I'm just kidding.
But honestly, like when you were saying about like it would have been, oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. So that would kind of spoil the arc that Corey was talking about. If he did follow through and he did go back to his kamikaze ways and did finish his mission by following through, then the idea that life can only beat, you know what I mean, can beat him.
It has to overcome.
Life and hope have to beat this force.
Yes.
It can't be a military act, which we question the tactics, but it was a military tactic of kamikaze. That wouldn't be effective. You know, that wouldn't be effective. And
not
so
to defeat this enemy or the U.S., but
James did a fist pump, by the way. And he did a hero anyway. I started singing Proud to be an American by Lee Greenwood. Corey edited it out. I'm offended. But we can all thank him for that.
So even at when they defeat Godzilla, it's not celebration, they're all saluting. And so it's almost as if to say, you know, sorry to all of our veterans that passed in this effort to defeat the burden of war and all the lives that were taken during this time and during the war and everything. It's almost to say, thank you for everything, thank you for your service, and instead of just everyone jumping for joy that they defeated this monster, it's a sign of respect to the fallen.
Yeah, I think that was kind of cool. I again, watching it again, I probably would look for that. And now I almost feel like it's, after having these conversations, I feel like it's stolen depth, right? It's not my own depth. But and yet it's still good because it helps me to appreciate the movie a little bit more when I get different perspectives to say, hey.
Trust me, there's times where I found something, I was like, that's so cool. it doesn't diminish the movie experience when
right.
someone else shows it to you.
Well,
You'll be
that's
like,
it.
really? And then go back through it.
Yeah.
Because it's just you experiencing the movie. And that's another thing is like, on a surface level, it's still an awesome movie. It's still like it's still an interesting story. You're invested in the characters. You want them to win.
That's it.
You want them to win.
Yeah.
And there is more depth to this, like what we're talking about here. But I think that what makes it so great is that the depth is there, and at the surface, shallow level of this movie, of your basic light and sound, it's still entertaining and enjoyable.
Was there? I don't even remember if there was, and because part of this has to do with how distracted I was by the voice, by the English speakers. Mm-hmm. It was a necessary evil. I had to do that. I wouldn't prefer that at all because it takes away so much from the performers,
Right?
From the acting. I'm curious though. The music, was there music? Was there score?
Yeah, twice the original Godzilla theme came in.
Okay.
At least that I remember.
There definitely is.
Okay.
I feel like with everything that's so strong about this, music is, we talked about a lot of things, but music is one of the stronger points of this movie as well.
I can't wait to watch it again, to listen for it.
Motifs, there's a certain melody that plays when there's like, something's building. Like,
see, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So,
one of my biggest things is, like, as far as symbolism goes, is like the sound and the music. Like, you got it?
So that's Godzilla's
We should have
motif
opened
right there.
Okay, yeah.
We could open the thing with this.
So like that's his theme. That's not just for this movie. But
I see.
That's
okay,
the
and
theme.
that occurs a couple times in this particular film.
Yeah. So whenever he comes up, that's what plays.
I whenever I think of that kind of sound symbolism, I can't help but think of, again, I'm jumping all over the place, Lord of the Rings. Every time the ring is present or there's mention of it, or it's so you hear the dee 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 dee, that little melody comes through, and so in Lord of the, like even Harry Potter, you hear certain things like Hedwig's theme and so you think, oh, I can imagine that, and I just feel good sometimes hearing it. That right there is terrifying. I don't even know why. I probably haven't heard that since I was a kid. But as you're playing, I'm like, stop it.
So one thing I wanted to bring up too before moving forward is at the end, the use of... Okay, so they had their meeting to see where Godzilla was going to be, and they say, okay, Tokyo, so overnight, we have to be ready in the morning. The kid is like, okay, what do I do, And they're, they say to not be part of the war is a proud thing. It's good to not have to be involved in that. And so it's like the older generations kind of saying, no, this is what we have to do to save you. When you get to the actual battle with Godzilla, they realize that it's a war that needs everyone. It needs the future to fight alongside you. So you say when they're trying to pull Godzilla up to make him explode, they only got so far, and there's nothing else they're going to be able to do. And so in comes the kid with a whole new group of tugboats.
Fleet.
A fleet, yes, to assist those generations in bringing the problem to light and to help them get past it. So that was another thing I wanted to chime in there. You mentioned the ring from Lord of the Rings because I wanted to move on to some other examples. It doesn't have to be in-depth conversation but other symbols in other movies that you picked up on. So the ring for me, addiction, obsession, that's what that ring kind of symbolizes for me. Is there any other symbols from movies that pop up to you guys?
Can we stay on the ring just for another second or two?
Oh yeah.
Just because I think of greed. To me, it's just greed, pure greed. Mm-hmm. It's like from Boromir to even Denethor. this idea of it. We'll keep it and we'll put it in the safe and the vaults, and no one will know.
The old timers on the res used to just call it the sickness. They always got the sickness.
Really?
Yeah. That was a phrase that they used to call it when someone got too greedy, that it changed who they were.
Well, I mean, it's funny because I think it's almost like those things that are, you can find them in different cultures and different societies, those ideas. Mm-hmm. And like, even like with Tolkien again, like the gold sickness that, the dwarves had, that Thorin Oakenshield had, that his forefathers had, and they saw it, they knew what it was, they knew what was going to happen. Yeah. And so that, another one that I want to think about as far as the symbol goes is like the symbolism of setting, right? Again, I talked about that before, but like one of my favorites is The Great Gatsby. And I know it's literature, but it was made into a movie, and I love the movie, especially the one with DiCaprio. Not because he's dreamy,
well,
right?
Part of that.
But it's certainly part of it, like 90-10. Anyway, the man can wear a sun hat. But like East and West Egg, there's no bigger thing than that. Like, yeah, you're from East Egg, we're from West Egg, and you have money, and they have money there. They sure do, but it's not quite like West Egg. So your main character has to be from a similar place of high regard, but he has to be on a definite different place. Your new money or fake money, we're old money. We're the real money, and so then I thought something like that is a huge example of symbolism of like, wow, it couldn't be more. Like when you see the film, you can actually, it shows a view from the top of, they're like diametrically opposed to each other. Anyway.
James, any symbols in film
that come to mind? No.
I'm sure if you thought, or if you watched movies from that lens, they pop up.
Oh, like, they definitely will.
What if I say Inception?
So the idea with the wife, she's buried underneath. She's buried in levels of his consciousness that comes out when he doesn't want them to. When she shows up and she attacks everyone that's around. Train comes barreling through, but the wife is at a certain level. The wife is in there and will try to kill anyone else that's in the room with him. That always came to mind. Okay.
Well, so the big one that I think a lot of people talk about is the spinning top. Yep. Mm-hmm. So, like, to me, that is, I wrote some notes on that one too. So it belonged to his wife. So to me, it kind of represented like the guilt or regret with her death. And so, that's why it's closest to him. That's why he uses it as his object or whatever. But in the end, that's the debate, is like he spins it and walks away, and we're focused on the top. But the real focus is that he left. He got past it.
Right. He doesn't even need to see it.
Yeah. I don't even have to, and so it's not, to me, it wasn't the point, does it wobble? Does it keep spinning?
That's interesting.
It's that he left.
Because it seems like everyone...
I can walk away from it now.
Oh, I like that. Because everyone looks at it, goes like, oh, it wobbled a little bit. Is it like, well, we don't know if it fell over or not. Is he in the dream world or not? Right. It doesn't matter. He doesn't care.
Right.
He knows where he's at.
Yeah. So like that's a symbol that comes to mind. Pretty big one that a lot of people discuss. But like even other big movies, Godzilla's a big monster movie. What about Dark Knight with Two-Face?
Oh, yeah.
The idea that, because he was supposed to be the White Knight, right? He was supposed to be the face of justice and true, I don't know what the word is, but...
Like altruism.
Yeah.
He's got perfect motives.
Right. He's the cleanest guy. He's going to take over for Batman because we don't need vigilantes.
Right. He's got the grit to actually hold up in court against...
to do it the right way.
Yeah.
He's got the integrity.
Yes.
Yeah. And so when Joker gets to him, you can see it as corruption, but it's literally, destroyed half of him, destroyed half his face. So like the symbolism behind the Joker's chaos, and even Joker as a symbol of chaos, the lack of order. something like that. So that as a symbol, Joker is a symbol for all of that, and then Two-Face becoming the symbol for justice being corrupted. So it's in, I mean, show me a movie that you don't think symbolism is in, and we'll try to find it in there.
Yeah. I love another one of my movies, right, is Forrest Gump. I like that the main character is the biggest symbol. And Forrest Gump as a character is a symbol of hope, of optimism. He's a symbol of optimism across these settings, and you see how optimism looks when it's employed in this setting, how optimism looks and employed in that setting, in this setting, in war, and in athletics, and even in relationships. His optimism pays off for him, and almost his naivety. Like, it's almost like he's a symbol of innocence that is applied in all these very dark situations. And it tells this beautiful story. And so the whole what his character stands for and symbolizes, I think that's probably why it got so much criticism as like a conservative propaganda machine. The innocence of hope, and so you think that these old-fashioned values are better than my way. No, but you can still look at something without the cynical lens. You don't have to you have to criticize and be sarcastic about everything. Life can be lived in hope. Life can be lived believing the best in people.
Right. And when it comes to film, like when you pick up on symbols and you figure out what the filmmaker's using them for, to me it adds another level of enjoyment from watching a movie. So you can enjoy it at its surface, climax, resolution, this character got his, our protagonist saved the day.
Yummy payoff.
But to also listen to what the filmmaker was trying to tell you with their message by using symbols and not being too on the nose with it, I guess, for me just adds another layer of enjoyment from watching the movies.
Love it.
You mentioned earlier the regenerating piece. Now, I just heard this one today, but I heard that the filmmaker wrote or finished writing or made changes to the script during COVID, and he used COVID times as motivation or as inspiration for part of this movie. With that being said, I had a whole new level of enjoyment when I finished this movie today, because originally I saw the regenerating piece and I kind of had the same thought you did, where it's like, well, if he can regenerate from that, what good is it fighting?
What did you accomplish? Yeah.
I try to piece it with a theme that we went over, and I was like, okay, maybe you're saying that, that is always going to stick with you. There is no getting over it. When I heard that it was written during COVID times, this movie was about getting past war and fighting for the future and trying to get past the burden of war. The pandemic was also a pretty big thing in not just Japan's timeline, but the world's timeline with COVID. And so what do we see when Koichi comes back to Noriko is that, and we'll call it an infection going up her neck. And then what do we see at the very end? This piece that doesn't look like Godzilla, it just looks like a chunk of something, start to regenerate and start to mutate, much in the same way a virus would. So now I'm thinking, if they do a sequel, wouldn't it make sense for the new symbol of Godzilla to be the pandemic? I started to think, how would you incorporate, this infection the girl's got? What would Godzilla look like? What would would he have any new powers, any new attributes to support that new world, that would be created if you used, the burden of the pandemic rather than the burden of war. What does that Godzilla film look like?
Oh, man.
So I don't know if that would, this could all just be smoke that I'm, chasing, but
It's fun smoke, though. It's a fun...
But if it, if I'm following things and the filmmakers are laying crumbs and they happen to be the correct crumbs that I'm picking up, that could be fun. That could be a very interesting movie or an interesting story to take Godzilla on.
Yeah.
Because he's always had either some protector of Earth or some symbol for atomic destruction or war. How does it look when he represents like a pandemic, like something that's taking over the world? That was another little thought I wanted to bring up.
It's interesting.
Just using the symbolism that was there, and then knowing that the writer has the COVID lens while fixing up the script.
I was so curious about that mark on her neck. It's obviously, it wasn't just coincidental. They were trying to show us something.
Right, because I watched it again, I'm like, did I see a mark? And then you can see it grow as she moves her head over.
I thought
see
so.
It move. So it's definitely, everything's on purpose.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, I was like, what a crazy good filmmaker to transition your symbol from being that of war and kind of leaving that little Easter egg in there to start the transition to, okay, for my next trick, he's going to represent this.
Yeah.
But, who knows? Like I said, this could just be smoke I'm chasing. That's just not the case, but what an interesting idea that
It's
would be.
It's clever. I think that'd be clever if that was the case. Who thinks that far ahead?
Right.
But you see filmmakers do that all the time, don't you?
You look at the Marvel universe where they put Thanos in what Guardians of the Galaxy, is that what it was? When
the first time he showed up?
Yeah, he puts on the gauntlet. He says, "I'll do it myself." Like, what movie was that?
No, it was way before Guardians. Yeah.
So like that's kind of the same thing where it was like,
I think it might have been the first Avengers movie.
Years ahead of
One thing about symbolism is the idea of show it, don't say it.
Mm-hmm.
And with minimal experience trying to write movies, that's one thing that I always struggled with. And I think one of the things I need to get stronger in, probably every filmmaker or screenwriter has to get strong, is use of symbolism and being smart and deliberate and intentional in using it.
Because I feel like a lot of people uncover it just by the nature of writing.
Yeah.
But you have to know, you have to be able to recognize your own symbol that you created. Mm-hmm. And, when you utilize that as a tool, then that's when I feel like you get a huge, yummy payoff.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was waiting for you to say it. The fact that you saying yummy payoff is my yummy payoff for this particular episode. This is fun.
So, Speaking of yummy payoff, I've got the next few episodes planned here. Next episodes is going to be brought to you by the phrase yummy payoff.
Oh my gosh, the yummy payoff.
So I'm going to ask each of you to, I'll say 3 again. 3 seemed to be a nice number, but 3 of your movies with your favorite yummy payoffs. Your favorite, whether it be a last battle, an all-encompassing resolution, whatever you think. I don't care if it overlaps with your, what we talked about last week. If it's the same movie or one of them, a couple of them are included.
Oh, okay.
That's fine, but I want to talk about our yummy payoffs and what makes them that way. Why, be prepared to tell me why they made it or how it was so yummy to you.
Sounds like a blast. It sounds a little deviant, a little decadent, and I'm in.
And so as I'm writing down, how our episodes are going, I'm finding out more and more that it's going to be more of a, okay, let's talk about a theme, and then the following episode we watch a movie relating to that theme.
That sounds
Okay.
good.
So,
Yeah.
Yummy Payoff is next week, and then the following week will be a movie that I'll let you guys know that relates to this Yummy Payoff.
I love it.
Ooh. Nice.
So, but do you guys have any other remarks? Any other comments before we sign off here?
I guess I'm curious. I don't know how you would ever get feedback on a podcast, but I'm curious. I would like to see what people listening, what symbolisms, it's just not just in Godzilla Minus One, but what are their favorites? What's something that moved them, a symbol that moved them, a symbol that, because I always think to myself, what am I missing? There's plenty of them that are missing as far as examples. And I want more. I want to know more. I want to hear more voices on that, because I feel like this is just I'm scratching the surface on so many things about films just in 2 weeks. Just scratching the surface on it.
Yeah, symbolism. I mean, we did one episode here with it. We could probably do a full season of just symbolism in movies and watching them. So, but I at least wanted to introduce the idea to viewers or to you two or whoever's listening. Like there's layers to movies that you can pick up on that allow you to figure out what the filmmaker's trying to tell you, how they're trying to tell you it. And if you have questions on like a movie like, say, American Psycho, that maybe you watch it and you think...
You said you haven't seen American
Still
Psycho,
haven't.
right?
Still, so
You can't watch that one at school.
there are very few places you can watch it.
Yeah, not safe for work.
But like maybe you watch that and you miss the point and just say, oh yeah, it was all made up in his head. I was like, well, okay, but if you think about it a little bit more and pick up more on things that happen in the movie, you might have a better grasp of what the filmmaker's telling you. Enemy is another one where you won't understand it unless you have a grasp of the symbols and the metaphors in that movie. So, but
Yeah,
that's all.
there's not a surface level to watch it and it makes sense.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's
See, I'm intrigued.
it's Jake Gyllenhaal, so it's he's the main character in it.
It's two Jake Gyllenhaal.
There's Jake Gyllenhaals, yes.
We lost him. We lost Kmax.
His eyes are rolled back in his head. Chris's head just blew up. He pulled a Godzilla.
But yeah, so I mean,
He's -1 right now.
he's divided by 1.
+3 at my max. It's too far. It's always too far. By the way, the blueberry coffee. Wow, Rotten Voz. The blueberry muffin coffee.
Yeah,
creamer.
shout out to
Unbelievable.
who's the,
like really
who makes
good.
the-
Shout out to Coffee Mate.
Maybe the best cup of coffee I've ever had is that Coffee Mate blueberry muffin. My goodness, it made decaf taste just right.
Well, it was a little Pike Place decaf from Starbucks,
Oh,
and
my
then,
goodness.
like I said, the Coffee Mate. It doesn't come in a big size. You have to look at the little sizes, but it's the blueberry muffin.
So in case Coffee Mate wants to sponsor,
If you wanted to give us a bit of a yummy payoff, Coffee Mate, we'd appreciate it. There's
right.
rewards for a yummy payoff. Oh, I just changed everything.
I just creamer.
Crank it up to 11.
This one goes up to 11.
All right. Well, that does it from Depth Perception, and we'll meet again next week to talk about Yummy Payoff.